Beloved brothers and sisters in Christ, today I want to speak to your heart about a truth so powerful, so life-changing, that it has the power to transform the way you see every struggle, every challenge, and every trial you have faced. God has a message for each one of us. Your struggle is a setup for your breakthrough. I want you to pause for a moment and let that sink in. What if I told you that every difficulty, every disappointment, every moment when you felt overwhelmed was not random but divinely orchestrated? What if I told you that the very thing you have been fighting, the very battle that seems never ending, is actually a stepping stone to a greater destiny? I want you to open your hearts and minds, because today we are going to discover the divine principles hidden in the challenges you face. We will explore how God uses struggle not to harm you, not to punish you, but to prepare you, refine you, and position you for a victory so powerful that it will change the course of your life. The Bible tells us that the testing of our faith produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Every moment of struggle is a spiritual classroom where God is teaching, strengthening, and equipping you to carry the weight of His promises. I encourage you to lean in, because what I am about to share is not theory. It is the practical, life-transforming truth that can shift your mindset, ignite your faith, and help you see your struggles from God's perspective. By the end of our time together, you will understand that no hardship is wasted, no delay is meaningless, and no trial is random. Every difficulty carries within it the blueprint of your breakthrough. You will see that God is not late, He is not silent, and He is not absent. He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail and preparing a victory for you that you have prayed for, dreamed of, and hoped for. Stay with me as we journey together into the heart of God's message. I promise you that as you open your spirit to receive this teaching, you will leave encouraged, strengthened, and inspired to embrace every struggle as part of God's perfect plan. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, and today you will discover how God is using your struggle to set you up for a life that is filled with His glory, power, and purpose. Get ready, because by the end of this message, your perspective on struggle will never be the same again. Your faith will be renewed, your hope revived, and your heart prepared to receive the victory God has already designed specifically for you. Stay focused, stay expectant, and open your hearts, because God is about to reveal how your struggle is truly a setup for your breakthrough. Your struggle is not a sign that God has walked away from you or turned His face from your life. It is actually a signal that heaven is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet see. When a believer enters a season of pressure, confusion, or hardship, the natural mind assumes something has gone wrong or that God is displeased. But in the spiritual realm, struggle is often the evidence that God is preparing you for something far greater than what you are currently experiencing. The very moments that seem like setbacks are often the early stages of divine preparation. God uses pressure to shape, develop, and stretch His people into who they must become for the next assignment He has prepared. That means whatever you are wrestling with today is not random, accidental, or meaningless. It has a purpose woven into it. Many times when God is getting ready to elevate someone, He first allows them to go through seasons where they feel pressed on every side. He allows situations that force them to rely on Him in ways they have never relied on Him before. During these seasons, your prayers become deeper, your worship becomes more sincere, and your faith becomes more rooted. Struggle drives you closer to God, not further. It pushes you into a new dependence that breaks the shallow places inside you. God knows that comfort never produces growth and ease never develops spiritual muscle. So He allows struggle not to harm you, but to prepare you. The areas of your life where you feel the most pressure are often the areas God plans to bless or expand. Sometimes God allows a struggle because He wants to remove things from your life that cannot go with you into your next season. Struggle has a way of revealing what is weak, what is unnecessary, and what is harmful. In seasons of difficulty, motives are exposed, relationships shift, and hidden issues surface. God uses the heat of struggle to refine you, just like gold is refined by fire. Nothing precious is formed without pressure. Nothing valuable becomes stronger without being tested. Your struggle is God shaping you into a vessel that can carry the weight of His next move in your life. He is not ignoring you. He is investing in you. He is not punishing you. He is preparing you for something you prayed for but are not fully ready to handle yet. Your struggle is a signal that God sees more in you than you see in yourself. He sees potential you have not unlocked, strength you have not tapped into, and purpose you have not yet stepped into. So He uses struggle as the tool to pull out what is hidden within you. There are virtues inside you that only pressure can activate. There are gifts inside you that only hardship can reveal. There is faith inside you that only trials can strengthen. Struggle is often the womb of spiritual greatness. It is within the uncomfortable places that God does His deepest work. When you understand that your struggle is actually a divine signal of preparation, your perspective changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is God preparing me for? You begin to see obstacles as opportunities, battles as training, and challenges as spiritual classrooms. You realize that God is far too intentional to allow suffering without purpose. Every single thing you face has a divine assignment attached to it. What looks like pain today will become power tomorrow. What feels like pressure now will become testimony later. When God allows you to struggle, it is because He plans to launch you into a place you could not reach without being stretched first. Your struggle is not the end. It is the beginning of a divine setup that will lead you into the breakthrough God already designed for your life. God never allows a struggle in your life without attaching it to a greater purpose or a future assignment. Every difficulty, every trial, and every moment of pressure is intentional. It is not random, and it is certainly not meaningless. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows the plan He has for your life, and every struggle you face is a crucial part of that plan. He does not set you up to fail. He sets you up to grow, to mature, and to become ready for the blessings and responsibilities He has prepared for you. When you find yourself in a season of hardship, it is important to understand that it is a divine setup, a part of God's strategy to elevate you to a higher level. Struggle is often a prerequisite to elevation. If God has called you to a place of influence, a position of responsibility, or a ministry of impact, He must first prepare you. And preparation often comes in the form of challenges that push you beyond your comfort zone. These challenges test your faith, your patience, your endurance, and your reliance on Him. Without struggle, many would never develop the spiritual, emotional, and mental capacity required to carry the weight of God's purpose. God's assignments are too important to entrust to someone who has not been refined through the fires of life. Therefore, every struggle is strategically placed to build the skill, strength, and character needed for your next divine step. Many believers misunderstand the timing of their breakthrough. They often assume that once a struggle begins, God must immediately remove it. But the truth is that breakthroughs are rarely instant. They are the culmination of lessons learned, character developed, and faith strengthened. The struggle is God's classroom. And within that classroom, He teaches principles that cannot be learned in comfort. Patience is cultivated when you wait. Trust is strengthened when you rely on Him. And humility is formed when you recognize your dependence on the Creator. These lessons are essential for handling what God is preparing for you, because blessings without preparation can be dangerous. God ensures that when the breakthrough comes, you are fully equipped to steward it wisely. Struggle also serves to clarify God's vision for your life. In the midst of trials, distractions fall away, false friends are revealed, and your priorities become more aligned with His will. You begin to see that what you once desired may not have been for your good, while what you struggled for was actually the gateway to your divine assignment. God allows struggle to refine your focus, to direct your path, and to prepare the soil of your life for the seeds of destiny He is about to plant. Without struggle, you might miss the timing, the lessons, and the preparation necessary to walk fully into your calling. Faith plays a central role in turning struggle into a setup for breakthrough. It is through persistent faith in God's promises that you remain steady when circumstances seem overwhelming. Faith allows you to see beyond the immediate difficulty and perceive the larger picture of God's plan. Every struggle is meant to deepen your trust in Him, to teach you reliance, and to remind you that you are not alone. God does not abandon His children during trials. Rather, He walks with them, instructing them, strengthening them, and guiding them to the moment when struggle turns into victory. Understanding that God attaches every struggle to a future assignment changes the way you respond to challenges. You no longer resist the struggle, complain about it, or see it as punishment. Instead, you embrace it as part of God's divine orchestration, trusting that He is preparing you for something far greater than you can currently imagine. Every difficulty becomes a stepping stone, every obstacle a teacher, and every challenge a divine setup for the breakthrough He has promised. The struggles you face today are the very instruments God is using to position you for your next level of victory, purpose, and divine assignment. Breakthrough does not begin when the struggle ends. It begins when your mindset shifts. Many believers mistakenly believe that their breakthrough is entirely dependent on circumstances changing, on obstacles being removed, or on pressures being lifted. They pray for the end of their struggles, expecting instant relief or immediate resolution. But God's timing and methods are different from human expectations. True breakthrough begins in the heart and mind before it manifests in the external world. It is the moment you begin to see your struggle not as punishment, setback, or failure, but as a divinely orchestrated process of preparation and refinement. Your perspective determines the power and speed of your breakthrough, because God's work in your life is always as much internal as it is external. The first step in experiencing breakthrough is understanding that struggle is a tool, not a barrier. God uses trials to shift your focus from self-reliance to His provision, from impatience to trust, and from fear to faith. When your mindset changes, you begin to perceive challenges differently. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable now become opportunities for growth. Weaknesses that once embarrassed you now become platforms for strength. Every difficulty becomes a teacher, and every delay becomes a divine lesson in patience and obedience. Breakthrough is the product of seeing God's hand at work, even when the visible situation appears impossible. It is not waiting for circumstances to improve. It is aligning your heart with God's truth, trusting His process, and allowing Him to transform your perspective. Faith is the key to shifting your mindset. Faith sees beyond the present struggle and envisions the promise of God in the future. It refuses to be swayed by temporary discomfort or setbacks. Faith reminds you that God's purpose is greater than your present pain, and that every moment of trial is working together for your ultimate good. When you choose to believe in God's plan instead of focusing solely on your struggle, your mindset changes from despair to hope, from doubt to confidence, and from fear to courage. This mental and spiritual shift is where the breakthrough begins, because God responds to a heart that trusts Him even in the storm, a spirit that sees beyond the moment, and a mind that is renewed by His word. Another critical element of breakthrough is perspective. When you recognize that your struggle has been divinely appointed for your growth and preparation, you begin to see its value. What once seemed like chaos or confusion becomes a purposeful process designed to strengthen you, refine you, and prepare you for your next level. Breakthrough is not about removing the struggle immediately. It is about learning to walk through it with wisdom, faith, and obedience. Your mindset determines whether the struggle defeats you or prepares you for victory. A transformed mindset turns pressure into power, setbacks into lessons, and challenges into opportunities to experience God's presence in deeper ways. Gratitude and focus also play a vital role in the shift. When your mind begins to focus on God's promises, His faithfulness, and His previous victories in your life, your perspective changes. You stop fixating on what is going wrong and start seeing what God is doing. Your attitude becomes one of expectation rather than frustration, and your spirit begins to operate in alignment with divine timing. The breakthrough starts in your heart long before it appears in your life. It is the realization that God's work in you is as important as His work through you, and that internal transformation precedes external manifestation. Finally, understanding that breakthrough is birthed in the mind encourages persistence. Even when struggles continue, when circumstances remain difficult, and when answers are delayed, a shifted mindset sustains you. It allows you to persevere, remain faithful, and continue walking in obedience. Breakthrough is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of faith, hope, and spiritual insight within the struggle. When you allow God to renew your mind, transform your thoughts, and change your perspective, you position yourself for the breakthrough that He has already prepared for you, turning what was once a challenge into a launching pad for victory. Your struggle exposes weaknesses so God can strengthen you for what He has planned. Many believers do not realize that difficulties in life are not merely obstacles to overcome. They are divine instruments used to reveal the areas in our lives that require growth, refinement, and spiritual maturity. God allows struggles not to punish, discourage, or abandon His children, but to expose areas where we are weak, immature, or unprepared for the assignment He has destined for us. Without exposure, true transformation cannot take place, and without strengthening, the blessings that God intends for us could overwhelm us. The pressures of life are therefore part of God's training ground, designed to fortify character, deepen faith, and equip His children to handle the responsibilities of their next season. When God allows a struggle, He is often revealing limitations that must be addressed before elevation. These may include emotional weaknesses, lack of patience, insufficient discipline, or even unrecognized pride. Struggle forces believers to confront these areas honestly as they are brought to the surface by circumstances that test our endurance, faith, and resilience. In this process, the believer is given an opportunity to rely more fully on God, to pray more earnestly, and to trust more deeply. The very weaknesses that struggles reveal are the same areas God intends to strengthen, transforming vulnerability into virtue and fragility into resilience. Without this divine exposure, one might enter a season of breakthrough unprepared, leaving them ill-equipped to steward the blessing effectively. Strengthening often occurs through repeated trials and consistent reliance on God. The believer who faces difficulty learns lessons that cannot be taught through comfort or ease. God uses struggle to build spiritual muscle, teaching endurance, perseverance, and unwavering trust in Him. Every time a believer chooses faith over fear, patience over frustration, or obedience over rebellion during a trial, they are being strengthened. Each moment of resistance against despair, each prayer offered in hope, and each act of trust under pressure is God's way of fortifying the spirit. The struggle is intentional, designed to develop the internal capacity to handle external blessings when they arrive. It is in the crucible of hardship that God molds character, shapes destiny, and prepares the individual to manage the weight of His purpose. Struggle also develops discernment and wisdom. Weaknesses exposed by trials often reveal areas where poor decisions might have been made or where reliance on self rather than God has been evident. God uses struggle to redirect, correct, and refine decision-making processes, teaching the believer to act with wisdom, humility, and faith in alignment with His will. Strengthening, therefore, is not just physical or emotional, it is spiritual and practical, equipping the believer to navigate life's challenges with insight and divine guidance. The trials that reveal vulnerability simultaneously provide opportunities to grow in wisdom and spiritual acumen. Faith is central to allowing strengthening to take place. Believers must understand that struggles are not arbitrary punishments, but purposeful tools used by God to prepare them for the future. Faith enables them to see beyond the immediate difficulty and trust that God is orchestrating events for their ultimate good. This perspective transforms struggle from a source of discouragement into a vehicle for empowerment. The believer who embraces struggle with faith, understanding that God is working to strengthen them, experiences growth in ways that comfort alone could never produce. Ultimately, struggle is a form of divine preparation. God exposes weaknesses so that they can be transformed into strengths, teaching lessons that endure beyond the moment of trial. Each difficulty is a step toward maturity, each challenge a bridge to resilience, and each hardship a divine exercise in spiritual fortification. By allowing struggles to reveal weaknesses and embracing God's strengthening process, believers are equipped to receive and sustain the breakthrough blessings and assignments that God has planned, ensuring that when elevation comes, it is fully supported by the character, wisdom, and faith developed in the crucible of their trials. Every struggle carries a hidden instruction from God, even when it is difficult to see or understand. Many believers face trials and challenges and wonder why they are going through them, often asking God, "Why me?" or "When will this end?" What they do not realize is that within every struggle lies a divine lesson, a spiritual principle, or a guidance that is essential for their growth, alignment, and purpose. God never allows His children to experience difficulty without intention. Every circumstance, no matter how painful, confusing, or overwhelming, is orchestrated to teach something crucial and to redirect their life according to His perfect plan. Struggle, therefore, is not meaningless. It is a spiritual classroom, and every trial carries an instruction that God wants the believer to receive. The hidden instruction often begins with correction. God uses struggle to point out areas of our life that need adjustment, refinement, or repentance. Sometimes the struggle is caused by our own choices, habits, or attitudes that are out of alignment with God's will. Other times, it is a divine wake-up call, revealing that the path we were following is not the one He intended. Struggle is God's way of saying, "Pay attention, learn this, adjust, and prepare for what I have next." The believer who recognizes this principle begins to approach challenges differently. Instead of complaining, resisting, or feeling defeated, they ask, "What is God teaching me through this situation? And how can I align myself with His plan?" Redirection is another hidden instruction embedded within struggle. God allows obstacles and trials to remove distractions, close doors that are not meant for us, and guide us toward the path that will fulfill His purpose. Many times we are focused on the wrong relationships, the wrong opportunities, or the wrong goals. Through struggle, God gently nudges us away from paths that could lead to failure or compromise, and toward doors that open into our destiny. While the experience may feel like delay or loss, it is actually a divine positioning. The struggles that seem burdensome often serve to place us exactly where God wants us, at the right time and in the right circumstances to receive His blessing. Struggle also teaches endurance and resilience, which are essential for any believer preparing for breakthrough. Hidden within the hardship is the instruction to persist, to trust God despite appearances, and to continue faithfully even when circumstances seem impossible. The trials we face are exercises in faith designed to strengthen our spiritual muscles and increase our capacity to handle God's next move in our lives. God is not only preparing us to receive His blessing, but also to sustain it, ensuring that when the breakthrough comes, we can handle it with wisdom, patience, and gratitude. Another instruction contained within struggle is the revelation of God's power. When believers face challenges beyond their natural ability to resolve, they are forced to rely on God in ways they never have before. It is in these moments of dependence that God's strength is revealed. Struggle instructs us to seek Him wholeheartedly, pray fervently, and trust fully. It teaches us that victory does not come from our own effort, but from alignment with God's will and obedience to His principles. Through struggle, we learn to see beyond the immediate pain and recognize the supernatural guidance, protection, and provision of God in our lives. Finally, struggles are designed to prepare believers for testimony and influence. The hidden instructions often include lessons that, once learned, become a source of encouragement, wisdom, and inspiration for others. God allows us to go through difficulties not only for our own growth, but also so that our lives can serve as evidence of His faithfulness and power. The instruction embedded in struggle positions believers to become vessels through which God's glory is revealed. Understanding that every struggle carries a hidden instruction transforms the way believers experience life's challenges. No trial is wasted, no obstacle is meaningless, and no difficulty is random. God is teaching, redirecting, strengthening, and revealing Himself through every moment of pressure. When a believer learns to seek the lesson in every struggle, to embrace the divine instruction, and to apply the wisdom gained, They are not only prepared for breakthrough, but also positioned to walk in greater purpose, faith, and victory in alignment with God's perfect plan. God turns your struggle into testimony so others can see His glory through your life. Every trial, every hardship, and every challenge you endure is not only shaping your character, but also positioning you to inspire and impact others. Many believers suffer in silence, thinking their struggles are private battles meant only for their own endurance. But God's plan is much bigger. He intends for the victory that comes after the struggle to be a living witness of His power, faithfulness, and love. Your breakthrough is not only for your personal gain, it is designed to demonstrate to the world that God is real, that He sees, and that He intervenes on behalf of those who trust Him. The testimony that emerges from struggle carries the weight of authenticity because it is forged in the fire of real-life challenges. When God allows struggles, He is planting seeds for testimony. Each moment of difficulty, each obstacle, and each season of waiting becomes a chapter in your story of triumph. A testimony is not just a story, it is proof of God's work in human life. When others see how you overcame adversity, how you maintained faith under pressure, and how you walked through trials with reliance on Him, they are encouraged to trust in God for themselves. Your struggles become a platform for God to display His glory, turning pain into purpose and challenges into channels for divine revelation. The very things that once caused frustration or despair are transformed into illustrations of God's power, demonstrating that no situation is beyond His ability to redeem. Testimony also serves as a tool for ministry and influence. God prepares believers not only to receive their breakthrough, but also to become a beacon of hope for others who are facing similar trials. When you rise from struggle, your life becomes a mirror reflecting God's faithfulness. People are naturally drawn to those whose lives exhibit victory after hardship because it provides proof that God's promises are true. Your testimony becomes a source of guidance, encouragement, and inspiration, showing others that breakthrough is possible, that faith produces results, and that God's plans are unshakable even in the midst of difficulty. God uses your story to influence hearts, strengthen faith, and instill hope in those who might otherwise give up. Moreover, testimony magnifies God's glory more than words ever can. When a believer shares their story of overcoming, it validates God's character, His faithfulness, and His perfect timing. Others are drawn to the power of God because they see Him working in real, tangible ways. Struggle becomes a stage on which God's attributes, His patience, provision, power, and love are displayed for all to witness. Every hardship endured faithfully becomes a living sermon, teaching spiritual lessons to a world in need of encouragement. The impact of testimony is enduring because it continues to inspire long after the struggle has passed. Struggle transformed into testimony also strengthens the believer spiritually. Recognizing that God intends to use your difficulties for His glory helps you endure with patience, trust, and hope. Instead of succumbing to discouragement, you begin to see trials as opportunities for God to work through you, preparing you for greater influence and purpose. You begin to view challenges not as obstacles, but as instruments of divine preparation and platforms for divine revelation. This perspective allows believers to persevere with joy and expectation, knowing that God is using every circumstance to shape them into vessels of testimony. Finally, testimony encourages community and collective faith. When others hear how God delivered you, they are reminded that they are not alone in their struggles. Your story becomes a source of strength for the body of believers, reinforcing the truth that God is faithful to those who trust Him. The breakthrough that follows struggle is amplified when shared, multiplying its impact far beyond your personal experience. God's glory is revealed not only through the end of the trial, but also through the testimony that emerges, inspiring faith, hope, and courage in countless lives. When you understand that God intends to turn your struggle into testimony, you begin to see hardship differently. You endure with purpose, persevere with faith, and trust that the victory awaiting you will serve as evidence of God's power and love. Your breakthrough becomes more than a personal blessing. It becomes a channel for God's glory to be revealed, a source of encouragement for others, and a testament to the faithfulness of the Creator, who turns trials into triumphs and struggles into stories of divine victory. As we reflect on the journey of struggle and breakthrough, it becomes abundantly clear that God's ways are far higher than ours, and His timing is perfect. Every challenge, difficulty, and season of pressure we face is not random, nor is it a sign of God's absence. Rather, it is a divine setup, a preparation process orchestrated by a loving God who sees the end from the beginning. He uses struggle not to discourage, punish, or defeat us, but to refine our character, strengthen our faith, and equip us for the assignments and blessings He has prepared. Each keynote we have explored reveals a unique dimension of this divine process. Struggle is a signal of preparation, a divine assignment in training, a shift of mindset, an opportunity to be strengthened, a hidden instruction, and ultimately, a source of testimony to glorify God. God's purpose in allowing struggle is multi-layered. He is shaping us to be vessels capable of carrying His blessings without being overwhelmed. He is teaching us lessons in patience, endurance, wisdom, and dependence on Him that cannot be learned in comfort. He is exposing weaknesses so that we can be strengthened, redirecting our path to align with His will, and preparing us for a level of victory and influence that surpasses what we can achieve through our own efforts. When we begin to see our struggles through the lens of faith, understanding that they are intentional and purposeful, our perspective transforms. We no longer focus solely on the pain or the difficulty, but on the divine process unfolding in our lives. We begin to embrace challenges as instruments of growth, stepping stones toward destiny and opportunities for spiritual maturity. Breakthrough begins not merely when circumstances change, but when our mindset shifts. Recognizing that struggle is preparation allows us to endure with hope, persevere with courage, and continue walking faithfully even when the outcome is not yet visible. Every trial becomes a classroom, every delay a teacher, and every obstacle an opportunity to grow in character, faith, and spiritual wisdom. Struggle is never wasted. It is a divine tool designed to shape, redirect, and prepare us for the extraordinary plans God has for our lives. Ultimately, God's intention is to turn our struggles into testimony. What we endure becomes a living proof of His faithfulness, power, and love. Our victories after hardship inspire others, encourage believers, and glorify God in ways that words alone cannot. Each story of triumph serves as a beacon of hope, a reminder that breakthrough is possible, and a demonstration that God is always working for those who trust Him. As we embrace this divine principle, we realize that our struggles are not setbacks but setups for greatness, and that God's glory is revealed not just in the blessing, but in the journey that leads to it. I want to take this moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for being part of this gathering, for opening your hearts, and for allowing God's word to speak into your lives today. Thank you for your attention, your faith, and your willingness to receive these truths. May your struggles be transformed into divine setups, your challenges be the foundation of your breakthroughs, and your life become a testimony that glorifies God and inspires countless others. May you leave here today strengthened, encouraged, and ready to step into the victories God has already prepared for you. Thank you, and may God continue to bless and guide you abundantly in every area of your life.